Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you all on this bright, sunny day. It is just cold as heck out there, but it's sunny, and I think the temp is going to come up a little today. So thank you for venturing out and joining us for this special hour or so together. I don't think we've got any newcomers in the house. I think we're all veterans.
Veterans, that's good.
I was going to say old timers, and that didn't sound right. It didn't sound right at all. But so good to see everybody this morning. We're really grateful to have Jack Wagner, Luis Salvador providing our music today. Let's thank them for joining us today. Look forward to that. And I'm happy to have anyone tuning in online. We are grateful for your ongoing support of the church. It's what keeps us humming along. So we're grateful. I always like to do a couple brief announcements up front. Unity Men's Dinner Group, I think, is this week, right, Paul?
Right.
Wednesday, is it 6?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock at Amado's in Delaware.
Downtown Delaware.
Downtown Delaware. Beautiful, downtown Delaware. So, all Unity Men and anyone always welcome. Newcomers are always welcome. Paul Wester sends out a notice about that. If you haven't gotten one and would like one, email the church through the website or contact Paul Listener. We have an ongoing winter food drive going on. There's a nice big box of food back there, and we just kind of add to it every week. You can bring anything in any time, and we make sure it gets to the food pantry of people in need of Delaware County. And I think you all know about the weather, alerts, kind of notice here in the winter months, we're always alert to the weather. And our policy is we'll cancel services in person if there's a level 2 snow emergency. And we all know all about that already, since we had to cancel our Christmas Eve service. So maybe that's it. Maybe we're clear for the rest of the winter, but we always check that. And then, of course, we notify people, too. So I think that's about it, except to begin with prayer and to begin to think about who and what we are lifting up in prayer this morning. People in our community, people around the world, our very planet. We are very inclusive in our prayers and believe it makes a powerful difference to be holding the highest in mind and heart. So Louise and Jack are going to lead us into prayer with a very familiar song, Surely the Presence.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us. See glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place.
As we close our eyes, we allow ourselves to become even more centered and still and open to the power and presence of God that dwells within us, that flows through us always, that is always healing and renewing and guiding us, moment by moment, by day and by night. Our hearts and minds are wide open to that divine influence in these quiet moments together. We affirm the high truth we know of this power that indwells all our loved ones, our neighbors, all living beings across the globe. Not one is separate from that source deep within and all around us. A source that makes all things possible, well beyond our reckoning. Its healing power in our minds, in our bodies, in our affairs. We do not know the limits of what is possible in this God-infused universe. So we hold the highest in our minds and hearts. We know healing is underway at all times, and greater glory is always up ahead. Thank you, God, for your unfailing presence with us now and call that noodling, and it's just lovely the way Jack does it, isn't it? It's just so good at that. Well, you guys are going to do another song for us, and I'll let you announce that, Louise. Thank you.
Well, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be here again. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yeah. Well, this tune that I've chosen, it's considered a standard, and I probably have sung it here before, but at any rate, it was written back in the 20s. Yeah, it's quite a standard. And it was introduced to the public by Ted Core. He was the composer, lyrics, and music. So anyway, it's a beautiful, pretty song. It's called Let's Fall in Love. I mean, what can you do on a sunny day? So let's fall in love. Okay.
So in the 20s, it's only like 2 years old then.
Yeah, right. That's it. Fall in love, why shouldn't we fall in love? Our hearts are made of it, let's take a chance of it. Why be afraid of it? Oh, let's close our eyes and make our own paradise. Little we know of it, still we can try to make a go of it. Made for each other, to be or not to be, let our hearts discover. Let's fall in love, why shouldn't we fall in love? Now is the time for it while we are young. Let's fall in love. Jack White, ladies and gentlemen. To be, let our hearts discover. Let's fall in love, why shouldn't we fall in love? Now is the time for it while we are young. Let's fall in love. Oh, let's sweat about it, let's swab about it, it doesn't mean you to fall in love.
Don't you love that scat? I just love that. I've tried to do that a time or two, but just can't pull it off. So that's a jazz technique that goes way back. Thank you, guys. Jackson, why don't we sit and relax for a little bit? Well, I'm talking a little bit about healing today, so I was trying to find some old healing jokes. So these probably are just a few one-liners here, but I thought they were kind of cute. Guy distressed saying, "You know, I just found out I'm colorblind." The diagnosis came completely out of the purple. I thought that was kind of cute. And then I thought this one was kind of interesting. I always feel better when my doctor says something is normal for my age, but then I remember dying will also be normal for my age at some point. True. And then this is an old standard. I always like this one. Doctor calls a patient, says, "I've got some bad news and some really bad news." The guy says, "Okay, what's the bad news?" He says, "Test results have come back in and it's confirmed you've got about 24 hours to live." And the guy says, "Well, what could be worse than that?" He says, "I've been trying to reach you since yesterday." That's bad news. Healing. Talking a little bit about healing today, and especially kind of a really, really old healing technique that comes back to mind for me again and again. And it just seems to pop up. I think of it sort of as a universal wavelength, that certain core truths or ideas, wisdom about healing and happiness and freedom and peace of mind, things truths we need about how to live in those ways, they keep resurfacing in different generations, and sometimes in different languages and different garb, slightly different aspects to them, but it's the same truth that keeps coming back again and again. And I find that's true with an ancient Hawaiian healing technique, and I've talked about it before, I know, but it's been some years, Ho'oponopono, which is fun to say. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, it's Hawaiian, but try it with me. Ho'oponopono.
Pono.
Very good, you're all speaking Hawaiian. It means a literal translation to set things right or to correct. And it was a very ancient healing practice going back like 5,000 years in Hawaii and some other South Pacific islands. And it was involved, it was an understanding that if there was illness, the causes of it were likely internal causes, regrets, mistakes, misunderstandings, problems within the family or community. And so that's where the kahunas, the priests, would guide people to look, what's going on? And Ho'oponopono was a technique practiced often within a family or extended family, led by an elder family member or a trusted outsider, where they would have group sessions. They would get together and look for where the grievances are, where's the bitterness, where's the anger, where's the upset, and see see if forgiveness can be granted, if restitution can be made, those kind of feelings expressed, and they'd have some sessions until it seemed cleared away, and then there'd be a kind of a celebratory feast at the end featuring a sacred calla seaweed would be part of the feast. Let's all feast on seaweed now, and we're all happy, it's all resolved. But it was a very time-honored, down through centuries practice, Ho'oponopono, setting things right through looking for the upset, the unset, the anger, the bitterness, the mistakes made, the regrets for mistakes made, things like that, and trying to kind of clear them. It goes way, way back. And then it's kind of resurfaced again and again over the years. There was a woman in the 1970s named Morna Simeona, and she was a kahuna. She was a priest, and she had grown up with that tradition, that Hawaiian tradition, and she kind of adapted it more for the modern day. Not just for within a family, but for everybody, as a kind of a self-help practice, a kind of psychological, spiritual self-help practice, including many of the same things, emphasizing prayer, confession, repentance, restitution, forgiveness, things like that. But unlike that, she thought any mistakes from our past, it was about freeing ourselves from the burden of those, even from past lifetimes. She took it very far in that way. Mistakes of our ancestors or our culture, that they're still in us somehow from our past, as well as our personal mistakes. And the purpose of her version was to release unhappy, negative experiences in the past, even past lives, and to resolve and remove traumas from our memory banks. I like this quote. It's from a book called Zero Limits. Simeona, Ho'oponopono is a profound gift that allows one to develop a working relationship with the divinity within and learn to ask that in each moment our errors in thought, word, deed, or action be cleansed. The process is essentially about freedom, complete freedom from the past. It sounds kind of good, doesn't it? No burdens from the past. That's what Ho'oponopono is all about. She had a very active practice in the 70s, teaching people this technique. And after she passed, one of her students, this is in the 90s now, a man named, I'll try this Hawaiian name, Ihalea Kala. I can do better with that, I'm sure, but that's all right. His last name is Len, Hugh Len. He co-authored a book about his discovery and his learning of this technique, Ho'oponopono, and how he kind of extended it even a little farther. He said that through using this technique, you could get to a place of zero limits. And that's what he wrote. He kind of helped co-authored a book on that topic. Completely free of the burdens of the past, completely free to live fully in the moment, free of all old thought patterns that might be limiting us. And he taught, part of his practice that became very, very popular for a number of years, still being used by many people, is he taught the use of a mantra with very simple phrases that people could use every day in all situations to do what he called cleaning of the mind, to get rid of the obstructing old thoughts and habit patterns of the past. And this mantra was very simple. I love you, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you. Very simple words and phrases with an amazing power behind them. People have felt liberated from all kinds of old negativities that still are a burden through doing this. Cleaning, it's an ongoing process. I like that word cleaning. He cleaned daily, he said. He taught other people to do this with the use of this mantra. It's kind of a little dust up of the mind every day to keep it clear. I really think that's a very powerful technique. I've been working with it myself because we're not always conscious of the things that are in there, right? We're not always conscious of the burdensome thoughts or habit patterns that are blocking us, blocking our freedom and our fullness of life and our peace of mind. So Hugh Lin, the 90s guy who brought it forward, and I don't know whether he's still around or not, he taught about that to practice this very broadly, to take a kind of total responsibility as you use this mantra, as you say, I'm sorry, and forgive me, and thank you, and I love you. This inner work we're doing with ourselves, inside. It's not directed to another person, but it's sort of like taking responsibility for the whole state you're living in, and where you're living, and everything about it. So you could do it for your culture, you could do it for others, but it's all about, I'm taking the ability to respond. I'm saying, forgive me for my part in the creation of any negativity that's in this situation. Thank you for the grace that from the divine that expunges all these things, that clears away any of the obstructing negativities of the past for freedom and peace of mind in the present. So that's all what they're all about. Well, I was watching an interview with an actress, very popular actress right now named Michelle Yeoh, I think her name is. She's in a movie right now called Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's interesting, but she's had a very, very successful film career. And she's been kind of noted for doing all her own physical stunts, like martial arts things and so on. She's really, really fit, strong. And they did an interview with her recently on CBS. And she said she starts every day before she gets into a kind of a stretching, strengthening routine or doing anything else in her day. She starts with a kind of a meditational apology. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. And she's thinking of her body and the stress she puts on it. And she's thinking of, and she's trying to clear away any limits. She's thanking the divine for the physical strength she has, for the energy pouring through her. She's cleaning. It sounds like Ho'oponopono. She didn't use the word, but that's what it sounds like. And it might have come from her background. She's of Malaysian ancestry. Maybe she was exposed to that in her youth as well. But clearly it works pretty well for her. She's 60 now and still doing, physical stunts and martial arts and things in all her movies. It's a meditational thing she does every morning, a kind of a clearing away of any sense of limitations, gratitude to the powers that be for making me able to live fully and freely, gratitude and release. And I love you. I love you to myself. I love you to the divinity within me, to the power and presence all around me. It's a powerful practice. It's a powerful practice. Reminded me, again, this reoccurrences all the time from this universal mind wavelength around us. When I was doing a lot of hospice volunteer work, and I know I've spoken about that in many ways, I was so enriched by that experience. I volunteered as a kind of volunteer chaplain for a while, and another time I did just volunteer visiting people in hospice, patients. And I did a lot of reading about hospice, and a very popular technique you learn about in hospice to help people through grief over the loss of loved ones or in their own passing is what they call the 5 closure tasks. And tell me what these sound like. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. I love you. The 5 closure tasks to be able to come to terms with the passing, our own, another's, And I've shared those with others often, and I've practiced them myself often, and I've seen again and again the unburdening, the freedom that can come when people are able to do these things. When somebody gets there in time to say thank you, or I'm sorry, forgive me, or I forgive you. When somebody gets there in time at a bedside to say I love you, there's an unburdening, there's a clearing away, there's a peace that comes. In hospice, they call them a way to come to closure tasks. It sounds like a way of, is made clear through this technique, a way is made clear for healing to occur, for the healing energy to flow. And it comes up in lots and lots of ways, and it's practiced in lots of ways. And it gets powerful results. I was reminded, of course, those of you who are longtime Unity people, you know the story of Myrtle Fillmore. Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, co-founders of Unity. And it kind of started with Myrtle. She had been chronically ill most of her life. She was diagnosed with TB. She was told not to expect to live too long. And it was part of what made her a seeker. They were always looking for spiritual support, prayerful support, as well as medical support, anything she could, but she was considered weak, frail, and she had internalized a lot of that her body was weak. It was cursed in a way. She'd come to think about her own body that way because that's what she had been told. So as she began to do some spiritual seeking and get some insights into how to work with her own healing, she did this kind of prayer practice routinely. This is a quote from her book, How to Let God Help You. I went to all the life centers of my body and spoke words of truth to them, words of strength and power. I asked their forgiveness for the foolish, ignorant course that I had pursued in the past when I condemned them and called them weak, inefficient, diseased. Then I asked God to forgive me for taking his life into my organism and using it so meanly. I promised that I would never again retard the free flow of that life through my mind and my body by any false word or thought, that I would always bless it and encourage it. That sounds like Ho'oponopono to me. It just keeps coming back again and again. She was setting things right, that's what it means, with this daily prayer practice, trying to clear away those old habitual thought patterns that she was unwell, that she would always be unwell, weak, frail, diseased. She was trying to clear that away and get back to zero limits, get back to being an open channel for the divine to flow through and that healing energy to flow through. She was cleaning, setting things right, and that was the start of Unity. Shortly after that, she recovered. Within a couple of years, she was clear of TB. She had 3 sons. They started a silent unity in their house, which was kind of a prayer group, a community prayer group, and then it led to a church, led to publications, and then a church, and many other things. She started it with this prayerful work on healing using this ancient technique. That's that universal mind stuff. Sometimes it just comes up. She was a highly intuitive person. This idea must have just come to her, just like it did to earlier practitioners of Ho'oponopono, that I need to ask the forgiveness of the power and presence in my body. I've been using it meanly. I've been using it unconsciously and digging myself in more and more every year with this idea that I'm ill. And I'm going to start clearing that away and see what happens. We make way for energy, healing energy to flow in us. It's completely, in sync with the teachings of Jesus, completely. He was always emphasizing the importance of giving thanks. Thank you. That was the only prayer he taught in the Gospels, was the Lord's Prayer, we call it. And it was all about that. There's gratitude, there's forgiveness. Before any healing he did in the community, he said, "Thank you, Father, for hearing me. I know that you hear me always." In the prayer we call the Lord's Prayer, he said, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." And it was meant to be a prayer for every day, a daily cleansing of the consciousness. Clear out of the way the grievances, ask forgiveness, express your gratitude, say "I love you" to the divine flowing within you. It's a daily cleansing process. Why did he emphasize it so much? One of his disciples asked him, "Must I forgive as many as 7 times?" He said, 70 times 7. It must be routine. It must be constant. You don't want to burden your mind and heart with these obstructing negative ideas. You need to clear it away, keep it clear so that healing energy of the divine can flow through us. What are the limits of it? I think we don't know how much this can do, what the limits might be. Because this is a God-infused universe. Healing energy is always flowing within every one of us, right? Things are healing right now in our bodies we aren't even aware of. A balance is being maintained, things are being cleansed, and this is true on the mental and the spiritual plane as well. That healing energy is constant. I think that's part of the reason Jesus said, with God, all things are possible. With this divine energy, this power and presence, we don't know its limits. So we better not put any limits on it and say, this isn't possible for me. I've always been ill, I'm always going to be ill. That's what Myrtle realized. We want to stay wide open to that by clearing the obstructions away, letting God do that divine flow through us. There's this last little story, kind of a profound one, and I've read about it in this book called Zero Limits by Joe Vitale. Kind of wrote it partnering with Hugh Len, this guy who wrote the book about Ho'oponopono in the 90s. And he tells the story of when Dr. Len was a psychologist at a hospital in Hawaii for the mentally ill, they called them the criminally insane. They were very mentally ill and committed crimes. And the statistics at this hospital were terrible. Psychologists came and went quickly because there was a lot of violence. They didn't like working there. There wasn't much improvement among the patients. Many of them had to be confined and heavily medicated. Nobody seemed to be getting better. This is the hospital where he took a job in, Dr. Len, who was a practitioner of Ho'oponopono. And an amazing thing began to happen. Staff began to stay longer. It became more peaceful, less violence. Many of the patients, they began to be able to reduce the medication while Dr. Len was there, and even be released. There was a steady flow of healing energy happening and good results occurring. And people, how did this happen? How did this happen? Dr. Len explained what he was doing was he was in his office going through patient files. He didn't meet with patients, he didn't do therapy, and he didn't change medications. He was going in his office, going through these files every day, learning about the histories of these patients in there. And as he felt compassion, as he looked through these files, he would do Ho'oponopono on all of those files. I'm sorry, forgive me. Thank you, God, for cleansing all of this away. I love you to the divine. And he would kind of do that with compassion in his heart, and he got these tremendous results. And the ward was closed after several years because there was so much improvement. Now, you can believe that story or not, I do. It's been written up. That's what I mean by we don't know the limits of this healing energy, this power in our midst. If we remove the obstructions, if we make a habit routinely of saying, I love you to the divine in me and in all things, I'm sorry for any ways I have restricted that or limited the flow of the divine in my life and anyone else's, or that my forebears did, or that I did in the distant past. Forgive me for that. Thank you for this energy that you bring to us all without limitation. I love you, thank you. It's amazing how it cleanses. It cleanses our consciousness, and because we're all interconnected, it can cleanse the consciousness of others as well. And that's a gift going forward to our ancestors, even going forward. It's a powerful technique. And I think in these new days of this new year of our lives, what a nice practice maybe, a gift to give ourselves for this new year. This very simple practice of this simple mantra, I love you, thank you, forgive me, I release, forgive me, I forgive you, I thank you, I love you. It's just kind of releasing, it's liberating. As Simeone said, it's about complete freedom. It's getting to that place of zero limits, Hugh Len said. It's about living in a state of peace and total freedom. That sounds good, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Let's take that into a closing prayer for a moment. Just close our eyes and give thanks for that power within us that makes this and all things possible. That we can draw upon at all times to cleanse us and liberate us from any burdens of the past. There is no withholding in the divine. There is no holding back. There is no obstruction. God is always wanting to flow in and through us freely and fully with its healing life, its unlimited peace, it's great freedom, and it's joy. We are wide open to that. We release all burdens of the past, and we give thanks to the power and presence that makes it so. So it is. Amen. All right. Louise and Jack are going to do another song for us now, and I will let Louise tell you what that is. Thank you, too.
Thank you, Joanne. I love the whole concept of cleaning house. And I like digging. It has no value. It's lost its value. All righty, here we go. This tune was written by Jerome Kern, Oscar Hammerstein back in 1939. I wasn't here then either.
But I was.
But it's been done so many different ways. I mean, there's jazz people that's done it. Miles Davis put his twist on it, put a spin on it, and I've treated it differently with various people that I've worked with. And there's all beautiful stories that have come out of all the things you are. And Jack might have a story on this.
Yes, when the Jack Nicklaus Museum opened on Olentangy River Road, I played the piano there for the grand opening, and the governor of the state was there with his wife, Governor George Voinovich, if any of you remember him. And as they walked in, by happenstance, I was playing this tune, started to play it. All the Things You Are. And I saw them walk in, and their eyes got big, and they looked at each other, and then they started walking over to me. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? To cause the governor and his wife. And they said, how did you know that that was our wedding song? And I said, well, I guess I'm just psychic. But I have a thought about my relationship with the talk today, and that is my hometown is Kokomo. I can't pronounce it anymore. And the word that I use is connect. And that gets me moving in the direction that Joanne is talking about. Okay.
You are the promised kiss of springtime that makes a lonely winter seem long. You are the breathless hush of evening that trembles on the brink of a lovely song. You are the angel glow that lights the star, the dearest things I know are what you are. Someday my happy arms will hold you, and someday I'll know that moment divine when all the things you are mine.
Yeah, Jack.
You are the to glow that lights the star. The dearest things I know are what you are.